budget and the financial restoration plan. How do you want to do it? What do you want to talk about first? Start with the financial restoration plan. Okay. I checked to see if we could buy any time for, you know, further study and stuff like that, and it doesn't sound like we can. So, you know, that's the answer I got from the chairman of the committee. This is Henry. So, we were bound by our whatever rules, you know, high revised code, whatever it says, we're bound by that. So if you need to get any definitions or anything, we can clear it up very easily. Our law director, whatever you need to clear up. I don't know how you want to go through this myself. I'd kind of like to go through it. The first three cover sheets don't matter to me a whole lot. I don't know if they matter to you guys that much. You know, it explains it, that's fine. I read them and stuff and understand it. But I just wanted to, I'd kind of like to go through each one of these blocks one at a time. Even the old ones. I mean, I brought this whole stack. This is all the stuff, you know, originally. We started like the 5th of March last year, you know, with the first proposal or something on the 7th. We had some other stuff from the commission, you know. But there's a whole lot of stuff to do. We can make comparisons to as far as what the old plan said and what the new plan says. But I'd kind of like to start, and if you would, Diane, I'd appreciate it if you'd read those paragraphs for us.
Okay.
As we go down there, I mean, we can start right at the top with the source of additional revenue and the sources and stuff. And maybe we can start asking questions, and Ken's here. Is the mayor coming?
Yeah.
Okay. You're here so you can field some of the questions, and then we can start making our comments. I want to tell everybody again, if I didn't tell everybody the other night, I won't be here after Monday. So I'm going to, I'm
You
sorry.
can't rearrange your schedule?
Yeah, I already did. I planned on us having all this stuff in February is the way it sounded when I last attended the commission meeting, and it didn't work out. So I rescheduled it from February to March, and that's the way it is now. Pardon me?
We're going with, you just said.
Yeah.
But we're going.
But I will, between now and Monday, I'll make my opinions known as much as I can. But I mean, it's, I think there's going to be you eight people who have to decide what we're going to be doing here.
Oh,
That's
before I
Nancy.
forget, when is the next commission meeting?
Next 24th, I believe it is.
What time?
24th, I believe. Ken, is that, I believe that's right, 24th of March is the next commission meeting. Fiscal commission, I think it's the 24th.
What time is it usually?
1:30 has been the time up to this point,
And where?
and it's been at the chamber for, since
1:30
the
at
first
the chamber
couple of,
conference
Pardon?
room. 1:30 at the chamber conference room on the 24th.
on the 24th. Okay. So, the plan the mayor has to produce a plan to the commission, we understand, on the 19th. And then they will come in on the 24th, they'll take a look at it, so timing wise, that's what you're looking at. I don't know what else to say. Like I said, I had a conversation with Mrs. Hanrahan, and you know, I voiced my opinion on, you know, how late in the game we're getting this thing. And the other thing is, I think when this thing hit the paper, now all of a sudden it's going to generate some conversation. Quite honestly, I asked God straight out, I'd like to extend it 1 month and listen to residents right ahead.
So we have to, so technically we have to vote on it on 16th.
Or 17th or
We
18th.
have to call a special meeting and vote on it.
Yes.
To make that 18th.
We could do, you know, already we're planning on, we talked the other night, some of us, we're planning on having a meeting at 6 o'clock next Monday prior to the meeting. So that's going to be one meeting we have planned here for sure. All right. But now from here to there, whatever we decide would be decided here.
And we have to get 3 readings.
No, this isn't for real. This isn't an ordinance. This is just a
We don't
plan.
have to approve it?
We either have to approve hers or present a counter. Yes.
We don't have time to keep doing all that, because we have the 19th.
Well, we spent what, maybe 3 to 4 weeks doing that the last time, and there's not that kind of time out of the way they're talking right now, so. And that's where I said, I think, you know, first of all, the commission, I think, is wrong. Well, I'll say it, I think, are wrong, but also I can tell you, I was at that last commission meeting, and it was made a point of, I believe, Bob Gessner and Bob Young, that they wanted this thing, that they felt we should have time to have this thing. Well, we're not having, it's not happening. And that's when I came up, they started talking about, they could start immediately exchanging numbers on the administration. I'll use you for the whipping person. We can talk about this.
Thank you.
And you can use me if you feel like it. But the administration, and then they talked about really getting serious about it in September or February, and that's what I said. That's when I originally canceled my vacation, because I thought we were going to be into this by then. And that would have given us roughly a month to do something. Well, that's not happening. And that's what I said. I point blank, this is kind of selfish, but I'm not going to be here. I asked you if there's any way we could look at a 1 month extension to the 19th, give us time to talk, because I do believe now that it's hit the newspaper, there is going to be a lot of people asking.
What's the worst case scenario?
Worst, I guess, is if nothing happened on the 24th, they would probably they could implement the cuts starting in April.
They could.
That's what she says. And that's the way the Ohio revised codes work. Now, if you're making headway, I don't know what happens.
So I just don't feel that the 19th is fair.
No, it's not.
And if we don't make headway, then, okay, well, we'll just have to maybe take a chance. I mean, I doubt that they would really impose a 15% cut across the board, really. I mean, we've done all the other things that we said we were going to do up until this point. So, I mean, I don't see why.
We're the ones that have done everything.
That's what I'm saying.
We've
We've done
done it
everything
all.
that we said we were going to do up until this point.
Yes.
And so, as far as I'm concerned, we don't make the 19th hold up. We don't make the 19th.
Why don't we just go through it and see where we end up?
All right, let's do that so we understand it anyhow.
I have 2 questions for Mr. Court. I have good time, if that's okay. Mr. Court, did you guys, I remember when I went to the last meeting, was it January probably, when the last fiscal commission meeting was going on? There was mention that you guys would be meeting with, I believe, Ms. Brown from the auditor's office on February 4th.
Correct.
Did that meeting occur?
Yes.
Okay, and the purpose of that meeting, I believe, was to be able to review things such as the comprehensive vehicle replacement program and things of that nature to make sure numbers were going to match up.
Correct. That was part of it.
And then who developed the replacement program?
That was through the mayor's office and the department directors. A lot of that work, the groundwork was done by the wastewater treatment plant.
Do we know how long it took to develop this?
6 weeks.
And the reason I ask this question is because it does play to this timing thing. I do feel that we have a legitimate argument to be made that when there was a meeting had 35 days prior to our receiving the plan with the auditor's office in the state of Ohio to make sure numbers matched, and we had to wait that 35 days before we seen everything, when obviously, at least at that time, some conversation had happened. I'm assuming some kind of affirmation that things were lining up. Additionally, we have a 19-year plan here.
It's 20 years.
20-year plan here for vehicle replacement that took 6 weeks to develop, and I'm given
4 days.
5, a week and a half to fully grasp, understand, and decide that I want to implement. And I don't know if that's an appropriate amount of time for me to really dig into this.
If I may,
Go right ahead.
approximately 10 days before it was presented this week, we asked the law director for his opinion on the real estate levy. There, we were looking at including fire and police and that, and when he did get back to us, which I believe was Friday, this last Friday, he said, no, you have to have those on separate. So when, from 1.8, we were originally looking at to 1.5. So, you know, we were waiting too, a little bit for the
10
law.
days before you present it to me. That's 10 valuable days. And I guess at the same time, I guess what some of us would be saying is even at that point, a preliminary plan could be given to us. In which case, then the administration could have come back and said, hey, well, by the way, we received an opinion from our law director that says this can't happen, so 1.8 is not feasible. Instead, I'm given 9 days with what is your plan that you want to present. I just don't understand why preliminary information, even this vehicle replacement program, could have been presented to us a month ago possibly, so that we could digest that before we see the entire plan. Now I have this big ball of wax that I have to try to get through, and not enough time to fully be confident to say to my citizens that I represent, that I understand it fully and am prepared to vote on it. I also believe that when we pass a resolution saying this is our plan, same thing as last time, we're saying we're going to vote these pieces into law, and I don't know if by the 18th I'm ready to say that. Now, you know, for 6 months I've been on every soapbox I can find and crazy few that weren't there before about a comprehensive vehicle replacement program, and I'm happy to see the administration agrees with me and has developed one, but I'm not going to vote on one that I'm not fully confident in.
But there was a lot of meetings with the different departments there, at least 2 for every department.
And I agree, 6 weeks, I actually think 6 weeks means you guys were probably doing it fairly quickly.
Well,
I commend you on that. I just want more time to digest it myself.
I'm in agreement.
I have a question. Why did the vehicle replacement plan go through the wastewater treatment plant? I'm kind of lost there.
we used the model that Mr. Ulrich had already designed there as far as, you know, the years and when these would be replaced there. So we used what model he had as the model for the city now.
Okay.
Anybody else? Yes.
Okay, and the thing is, if we don't go along with this, within these 9 days, we have to come up with another plan, correct?
Well, we can do.
I don't know, I don't see an S on any one of our chests. I don't see it as a Superman. Oh, you've got one?
Yeah, it's for
I mean, 9 days to okay this, and if not, then we have to come up with a viable plan.
Yeah.
if the vehicle replacement plan comes out of the restoration plan, we can amend this plan later to include that.
I guess another question I have, a follow-up, I'm sorry, I don't mean to hijack, but they're not particular boxes. I believe last time I was presented with numbers that showed me projections that if these things were implemented. Do we have those? All I see is the vehicle replacement program as my attachment.
Numbers with the first one.
The numbers for the vehicle replacement plan.
Not just the vehicle, I mean like,
The
if
whole
we,
plan, the 5
for everything.
plan.
You know, right now I have an email from Ms. Brown that will show me that if we do nothing, what the 5-year projections
Right.
are. And you know, this year we have an approximated $420,000 carryover. Next year, 2016, is going to be a $116,000 deficit, and at the end of 5 years, we're a little bit over $1 million in deficit, if I remember reading that correctly. How does this plan impact that? I don't have those numbers, and I guess that would be another argument. I have a plan, but no numbers.
We'll have those numbers before Tuesday. Anyway, I talked with her late today.
I guess then my follow-up is, Mr. Manson, with all due respect to the process, how can I possibly discuss any of this without knowing the financial impact? It's a fiscal recovery plan. I don't know the fiscal impact. How can, these are just words until I see the numbers. And that's kind of my concern as well, which means by Tuesday, which will be the 17th, I'll have 2 days to consider numbers. This doesn't add up to me as being even good timing.
I agree. Like I said, I'm not gonna be here, but if I was, I can't. There's no way I could get on board right now. Maybe at the end of the month, time studying it and talking it over or something like that, and I see it, maybe I could change my mind, but there's no way I can move that fast. Just can't do it.
Did Laura or Sharon put those spreadsheets together last time?
The ones you're talking about?
I believe so, I believe they,
I mean, these sheets right here.
Yes.
Exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly what we need.
And I have those for the, if we do nothing. I've had some email issues, we're trying to get them to Ms. Rowland, she should get them out to you. I will try again this evening, hopefully in the morning you guys will get that same information. I requested it at the end of last week, over the weekend.
I mean, if we had those, it would make it a lot easier to follow through and see how those numbers flow through.
How soon can we get something like that, Ken?
Tuesday.
The whole deal.
By Tuesday, I talked with her today, we putting it together yet this week, maybe Monday, and then get to us.
Tuesday. It has to be done by the 19th.
I mean, I just gotta say it, so if we don't do it, and we just say we can't make a decision by then what is it? Is it city council then that's triggering 15% across the board cuts because we couldn't react fast enough? I mean, that's ridiculous. You got 9 days, and we're not even gonna get the numbers until the day before we have to make a decision.
I totally agree.
I mean, so what, we're gonna be the bad guys now?
They'll point the finger at us no matter what.
Exactly.
So, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't.
I mean, I read through this, and in principle, I can agree with just about everything that's in here. But I don't know, without seeing the numbers and how they work through the spreadsheets, I can't. I mean, we don't know what the impact of this is gonna be. So, So then why are we here basically tonight? We called the meeting to discuss this, and I kind of figured we'd have those spreadsheets, but
All we needed to discuss what we already discussed.
and you really can't discuss the budget until you know how this
I
is.
mean, I'm not disagreeing that we need more information, but I mean, we needed to sit down and talk about this. How you want to handle this.
I mean, I suppose we could go through each of these boxes and discuss in principle if we like the idea or not, without seeing them. I mean, assuming that the numbers are gonna flow through okay, because we're gonna have to have that discussion eventually. So, I mean, we could at least talk about the idea of the property tax or, all these things have to do with what happens during negotiations with the unions. So I mean, we have no control over that. So I guess what we're looking for is, do we approve the ideas that are laid forth here? I mean, in principle, I guess there's really nothing in there that I can't live with, providing the numbers make sense.
With, if I may,
Yeah.
with everything that is in here, with the preliminary numbers that Ms. Brown ran, it worked out through the 5 years. We ended up with positive balances. That was with the 1.8 mil, including the police and fire. We'll have to look at changing the
Including
split.
what
What
police and
point?
fire?
Police and fire vehicles.
At 1.8 mil, you were including police and fire.
Correct.
At 1.5, you're not including.
No, we're doing the street repaving and the streets and highway division vehicles.
And no police and fire.
No, that would have to be on its own, or we can increase our split along the way on that.
And the street repaving program would amount to about $484,760 a year.
So, yeah,
And then
that's after the 3.5% delinquency.
and the new vehicles would add amount to about $242,000, $380.
Correct.
How many miles do I pay with $484,000, $484,000? We know.
It depends on the width of the street and the base. There's no single answer.
I'm fairly certain it's got to be an estimate. I mean,
There's a lot of,
if I were to go to corporate America and ask somebody how much is it going to cost me to build a 5-story building, they wouldn't tell me it depends on what size brick. They would tell me an approximate. So what's the approximate is what I need to know. And I'm not trying to give you a hard time, Mr. Kohler, but again, if I'm going to consider a 1.5 mil levy on to the property of the people of Massillon, I want to be able to tell them how many miles I estimate I'm going to be able to repave over the course of 1 year for $500,000. And if I tell them, well, it depends on what base I use, how wide the road is, they're going to tell me to pound salt and they'll know. So I need numbers for answers for that kind of stuff. And I don't know if Tuesday's going to be good enough.
Well, I spoke with several of the area associations in my neighborhood, and they're already saying no to the property tax. I mean, but I got the older population, they're retired, they're not hearing the property tax. So,
I wonder how they would have done the income tax, since none of them would have had to pay it.
I don't know the answer to that. I mean, can we get that information from?
If they voluntarily do it.
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, like, oh, that's
No.
right. So,
You
I
can
don't
tell
know
if they
if
voted, but not.
I also had several calls yesterday morning, hit the paper, people not gonna vote for it if we put it on the ballot. I think it's a waste of money to put it on that ballot.
And it's $52 per home of 100,000 per year.
$52.50.
Per year, which, I'm sorry, I'm hijacking. But it's actually gonna be 77 when we put in the city-wide light fee. The lighting fee that we've already hit homeowners for, and you add the two together, you're actually asking a $100,000 home. So it's $75.
I've received phone calls even at the print shop today. People are totally against it. And if you read my quote in the paper Tuesday, I said right up front, no. I will not be in favor of a property increase. We keep hammering, and I use the word hammer, because that's what we're doing to the property owners. And if we're thinking that we want to bring new property owners into town, they're not going to move into Massillon. It's killing them. Taxes are killing them. The mayor was not behind, would not promote and work with us to pass the income tax levy, and that would have brought in a lot more money than this 1.5 mil. And I'm telling you right now, I will not support the levy.
Well, and I also want to point out, why the heck are we waiting until the February 2016 special election when we have a huge general election coming up in the fall that's going to bring in multiple people? It's going to bring thousands of people out for that election, first off. Second off, we wait till February 2015, we're missing out on revenue. But if we pass anything in 2015, just in general, we could start getting collecting revenue in 2016. I'm not going to play this game where we wait till February 2016. We're reading between the lines here and know why it's February 2016. I don't like that. Why would we wait that long?
We also have a school levy that's going to be on the ballot as well.
Why would we ever pass up a big election?
We shouldn't.
Why should we?
Absolutely not.
Because
I'm not
people
saying
vote
I
their
agree.
conscience.
I'm not saying I agree with the property tax at this point, but I'm also saying I'm not putting anything on the ballot in February 2016 when we have a huge general election coming up in November. It should be on the general.
And what you're saying about the property tax, I wasn't in favor of property tax even before. But we already saw what happened with the schools when they had theirs on, when we had the income tax on. They got beat up worse than we did. Their percentage was even worse. You put two property tax levies on, or even if they're on within 6 months of each other, people are going to be wise to that. Well, it's going to make it really tough. To be able to predict for sure, none of us can for sure, but that's just how we feel that it's not going to fly. Well, that's kind of where I'm at, because I'm sure, I think the school even wanted to catch one of the early ones this year and they missed some dates or something like that. But I haven't heard yet if they're going to be on it. Does anybody know for sure if they're going?
I thought I just read there was going to be a renewal.
I know they're talking about it, but I still haven't heard a date or anything.
Well, then
Try to-
they'll wait
maybe we
and
can
then
find
put it
that
on
out
the
by
special
Monday.
election.
Pardon?
I said, then they could probably wait and put it on the special election
Yeah.
and go with us.
This levy for me doesn't affect anybody. I mean, the only people that's gonna benefit from this levy is Perry School System. Because the houses that this is gonna generate the money from is the Legends Golf Course area. I mean,
It's going to be any neighborhood where they're, say, 175,000 to 250,
Right, and
$300,000.
that's-
That's where the taxes are going to come.
and that's going to Perry Township schools. At least in my ward.
Well, I talked to somebody who lives out there trying to stay away from highway patrol cars, and they're, go to school. Which I don't have anything against either one of the schools.
I don't, but the thing is, if we're gonna hit our people with it, we should get something out of it.
Is there anything we can do with bonds to repair the streets?
It used to be crazy with that.
Canton was.
I mean, I know it would.
Chunk and doing it, they were talking.
I think the problem with bonds is you'd have to take a robust bond, let's say like a, whatever dollar amount, and you have to use that to pay your bonds process.
Yeah, it's not gonna flow, it's not gonna flow, that won't be acceptable.
We
really
did
are
consider
You did
a
consider
bond, but with the Moody's rating where it is.
It's just too expensive.
We're just not the right.
Don't who our debt here. 10, 12 years ago, we probably had $30 million worth of debt, and we have much less than that. Okay, we're gonna have a lot more as soon as we start on that wastewater treatment plant. But really, our debt is not bad at all for a city like us. We have a huge amount of borrowing ability. It's a fact. I'm not saying that's what we should do, but that's a fact, yes.
I think I asked this before. Is there any chance that we can do something with the sales tax?
I don't believe cities can, municipalities can do it with sales tax. I think that came up, Perry,
I think you can.
Perry said.
We can't do a sales
That's
tax.
county.
Yeah, I think that came up the last
County
meeting.
can, not a city.
What about that sin tax idea that you did before?
If we're doing all these things, why isn't there, like we talked about, something, cable
Entertainment one.
TV, we talked about cable
Entertainment tax,
TV,
right.
entertainment tax.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that we threw out with our first revision up to the administration's plan and the first round of all this, I mean, none of those ideas even cracked the pages. Even, so.
I think that's a very good point. That wasn't seriously looked at.
We were in time crunch then, and we still had to get a bunch of information from other places to do that part of it. So, and now our time crunch is even. And Ken, if I'm correct, the FEMA grant, we won't know anything about that until May or June, right? So we can't even count on if we're gonna get that.
Yeah, that's not in any of our projections until we get the letter,
Until we get the what?
the confirmation.
And that was only going to amount to $190,000 per year
And it's
for
in the
12
plan.
months.
But it's
Not
in
the
the plan.
500.
It could be,
No,
I'm not sure if it's
yeah.
12 months, it could be 2 years, but that's how much we would get in 12 months.
That's what I said. Yeah, the years could be longer, but I'm saying a 12-month period, it's
Exactly.
only going to be $190,000 a year is what was said here the other night. I don't know how long they, for whatever time period they'll approve.
I know this is a side, but if we do get that FEMA and that $190,000 does come our way, in my opinion, the responsible thing of council would be to take a look at that $190,000 that now gets freed up in the general fund and evaluate the fire fleet and see what they, since there is their people giving the grant, their people doing that work, that's still technically in some way, maybe not the whole 190, because we could use that 190 in multiple ways. But if they need something, let's make sure we take care of them and let them know that we appreciate the hard work they've done with that grant process over the years.
They are on a very good schedule as far as replacing equipment when the time's up on.
They do have, do they get, I want to recall some, they have, the EMS gets some.
10%,
10%.
all the revenue.
Great, and that helps the EMS, but what about the fire side? Do they have anything for the fire side to help their engines and things like that?
I'm not.
I think that could just be used by the fire department, period.
Any old equipment that we sell goes into,
I'm just saying, it would be, I just want to make sure we evaluate that. You know, those fire engines can be quite costly. I'm sure it's in the plan here, it's how costly this can be, so if we could assist somehow, that would be great. Or use that money to help renovate one of the stations or bring one of the stations alive, whatever the case may be.
I want to touch on that, because here, she has on here, determine need to keep and maintain property for Fire Station 3, remediate, make improvements, and or sell. Well, if they're saying that we can't use it because of the mold and what have you, how in the world do you expect to sell the building?
Property down and sell the property.
So for the property.
we might have to go through remediation before we can sell it, or remediate to the point where we can demolish it, then sell the lot.
But wouldn't repairing the roof, or putting a new roof on, and getting rid of the mold, be a lot less than tearing it down and then trying to sell it. You know, if we can't use it with a pump or not, you know, with a fire truck or whatever, why can't we use it to keep an EMS unit in there? So that, like with Nancy's situation, it didn't take 11 minutes to come from downtown. It would have only taken maybe 2.5 or 3. I just, you know, who is they that said this cannot be refurbished and brought up to code?
The recommendation from the Ohio Fire Chief's study on the whole fire department, all the buildings, that's their
That's
recommendation.
wonderful if we had millions of dollars to build a new station, but we don't. And until we do, and we can build one, the people on the east side are being cheated, we're gonna end up with a lawsuit. I'm telling you, if that happens again, I'm suing her. That's not right. It's our responsibility, the safety of the people in this town, and that includes east side Massillon.
I mean, that fire chief study, if I'm not mistaken, I think what it said was to close the main station and move it further out Lincoln Way somewhere, closer to Wales Road and Lincoln Way, so you could handle both directions there. The fire department says they can run that way, but still, how do you do that? I mean, you'd have to.
That's the worst intersection in town. I mean,
Well, it doesn't have to be that intersection. I mean, it could be a little bit further east of there or whatever. Yeah. You know. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
they talked about relocating
where would
the
you
main
get-
station.
Where would you get the money for that? Right now, we have no money. I mean, I don't even think that's in the discussion area right now.
I
We
mean,
have
there,
more pressing problems
yeah.
than we're for the fire station, but we need the EMS on the east side of town, period. There should be no discussion about it. And then when you figure we go all the way out past 27th Street, and the closest station is South Erie, if they're in. If they're not in, then it's 17th Street West. If they're not in, then it's clear down to South Erie. Common sense to me.
Bottom line is that station is going to be evaluated to see if it's feasible for us to bring it back into service.
A lot of that has been looked at. In fact, 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the insurer on that to see what might be possible there. Very little, but we're going to get an answer back to that.
Do we have any documentation at the time of the closure that shows that the stated issues were checked by a professional and verified?
I believe we had a report from the building officials.
Our building?
That could be swayed a little bit, maybe, you know, that they again.
I know people that buy that building in a heartbeat.
If we could,
I know people that buy that building in a heartbeat.
Oh, there's a
That
whole
take care of
list.
the remediation.
They have a whole list of names at the mayor's office who's willing to buy that building.
if you have that, Mr. Coe, if you could send that out there, right, I think that might help in our answering some of the questions that we have, and assist us in making our decision.
If we would do that, Ken, if we would, let's say it would be feasible to repair and reopen Station 3, to put an EMS unit there. We have to, well, I see in the vehicle replacement plan, there's already money in there to buy a new ambulance, because we'd have to put another ambulance, you're gonna have to hire additional people. Because to run an ambulance crew, you need 3 people. By closing the station and moving the people that were up there to the other 3 stations, that allowed us to put 3 people on each ambulance, so you only had 1 ambulance. Well, before, we'd have to dispatch 2 ambulances on every call, so with 2 guys in each, so one of them could be the 3rd person treating the person that was ill, and then the other guy would drive the truck back.
I think you can do people. I don't think there's any
No.
law that says there has to be 3.
Well, I don't want to be in the back having a heart attack and having a driver and having 1 person working on me. I mean, that's why, from a safety
that's
standpoint, that's what
obvious.
it's. But I'm just saying, it's more than the expense of just the building. There's the equipment and there's staffing that has to go along with it. So if we're going to look at that, we probably need to figure all that in as far as the evaluation.
Well, let's let's close one on the west side and move that up to the east side. How about that?
I mean, we should use
Let
the
the people
patrol
on the
barracks
west side
out
go
west and
that
move 17th Street out to the patrol barracks.
In all honesty, if we're gonna discuss the fire department and their location, all aspects of the city, because, you know, I agree, the east side does need to make sure that they're properly manned. But I could sit here and make the same argument that the people that live across the street from Tussauds High School are equal distant away from their fire station as are the people that live in Charity Roch are from theirs. I mean, you got Kenyon, I got the Kenyon area up there, I got Langdale and all
Yeah,
that.
but those people are annexed, and we've lived here all our lives.
But it's still our responsibility.
Yes.
They still pay the taxes. So,
Martin, make sure you have that on. She's not running again, so it doesn't matter.
Right.
I wanna hit on one, and if anybody ever says, let's just go through every one of them one at a time, we can do that, but I wanna go to the one on the millage and stuff here. I just wanna ask some questions right away that I wanna ask on that.
Which, Paul?
Property tax. On the second page there, the new place for the 1.5 mil,
Okay.
5-year property tax.
Okay.
Why is it 5-year? Okay, and why are we waiting till February of 2016? I still want to know why it's a 5-year. You mean in another 5 years, we're going to have to go through this fight again? So that's a question, you know, that's something where if we would have gotten something on the city income tax, we wouldn't have had to worry about 5 years. And like I said, the February thing makes no sense to me to ever miss a big election unless you are trying to sneak something through.
Well,
And that's, we know how that operates sometimes.
Ken, can you speak to that, why she wanted to wait till then?
No, I can't speak to that, but I can speak to the 5-year. The likelihood of passing a 5-year versus an open-ended is much better.
No, I just don't like the fact that now we have to go back and fight for it another 5 years.
I would say, Mr. Mason, I see your point, but my position would be 5 years more attractive to me, because I enjoy or appreciate the aspect that if this money is misappropriated by future councils, there's a safeguard in that for the citizens to withdraw it.
And I disagree. I still prefer it as a levy, whatever we do. I don't care how we do it, it should be permanent, not 5 years. On the 753,000, and there's delinquency of 3.5%, I don't quite understand what that means. Does that mean you don't collect all of it?
The people who don't pay their real estate taxes.
Okay, so
That's
then,
due to Mr. Mason.
okay, so then you see, it's 727,000. That's the total 1.5, right? That's
Correct.
That's the combination of the 5 for the streets and the 1 for the or 5 for the street replacements.
The delinquency rates, I got that from the
Yeah, I
numbers.
understand. Okay. You know, folks, the only thing I had a problem with when we ran the city income tax that I heard from anybody at all was about the street lighting. And probably if we would have maybe considered taking the street lighting off too, like we considered the tax credit, we may have had more people who were interested in it. Yes.
Mr. Coer, look and continue to review this property tax levy. This is actually the only piece on here that would make any kind of meaningful strides as far as revenue improvements for the city of Massillon. But I can see you have a couple other ideas that if things work out, maybe we see a little bit of a bonus, a plus on our balance sheets. But if we have $727,000, whatever, coming into the city and we obligate all of it, which I agree, these things we need to be obligated to, but none of it goes to assist in the general fund, how do we overcome that deficit that we've already seen? It's all being spent, so you're not actually, you're bringing in new money, spending on capital improvements. Right now, we know we don't spend $242,000 on new vehicles, and we all know we don't spend close to $500,000 on repavement. So this is going to increase our cost as it increases our revenue. So how do we overcome the deficit?
Well, some of that is general fund, because we really had to increase the amount in the general fund for the streets.
So that's street repair. We're talking about
Yeah.
street replacement, which we
Mhm.
don't do with our general fund.
Yeah, if we're not using that money to patch holes and equipment there, then that would take that out of the general fund.
And what are we projecting out of our general fund for road repair, such as patch?
Let's see. For 2015, supplies, materials, and postage is 71,000.
Can you give me the line for that so I can find it?
Yeah, it's on page, these are different here. It's the 1100, 435 accounts.
435. 435, 2410, $71,400.
Right.
And you're estimating that that's what we spend annually on the tar and other materials in order to fill potholes?
No, we had to increase that amount in the general fund because there's not enough money
In the other amount?
in the other funds there that are funded by excise tax, gasoline tax.
So the idea is that when we take, let's just call it $500,000 maybe, because you're formally say, when we take this $500,000 repavement, we would be able to probably reduce that number by about $71,000 using our other funds to continue patch and repair work. Is that the idea?
What are the other, yes, that would give us that relief in the general
So
fund.
we're looking at a potential $71,000. Where did we come up with that calculation? And I guess the reason I'm saying that is because I know that much of our patching, these guys out there, they go out there and they labor every day to try to keep up with the problem. The first streets we're going to start repaving are some of these major roads. Once we get the major roads, we're going to finally start patching some of these side roads that haven't seen any kind of patchwork.
We've been able to do the major roads, a lot of that with grant money.
Okay, resurfacing. I'm talking about like the patch. I guess my problem, my thought process here is I don't know if we're going to really see a savings in the general fund for at least the first 2 or 3 years, because even though we're resurfacing roads, which are causing those to not need to be patched, we have so many side roads that haven't been patched for so long that that money's going to be redirected to try and get some of our side roads patched up. Could I see in 4 to 5 years that maybe we get caught up enough that we start to see the savings? Sure, but it might take 4 to 5 years, which means we still haven't impacted that bottom line.
We
That's
do
where
have-
these numbers come in. Where are we going to start to see the turnaround?
Well, the money on this too isn't dedicated to the targeted areas too, like some of the roads.
I can get that, but I don't think the targeted areas really comes into play with my line of questioning. The thought is next year, at the end of 2016, we're going to have approximately $111,000 deficit. We're taking this money and we're going to obligate it to much needed capital improvements, which I love because it's my biggest soapbox I have. But even if we are able to cut some, I don't see how we're going to cut the $70,000 out of general fund using this as our stream of revenue. And even if we did, we still have a $40,000 gap that we have to overcome. It doesn't even get the whole 111. And I guess that's why I'm continuing to say we need to see these numbers, see how this is going to work. Because while we may sit here and argue philosophy won't mean a thing if it doesn't get the job done regardless. And I'm not convinced that it will. And I'm just trying to work my way through this.
Well, one of the big items too is the vehicle replacement. Right now, we have no real meaningful source to fund vehicle replacement in the street department.
I think that only furthers to strengthen my argument here is I want to see a vehicle replacement program. I enjoy the fact that I see an administration that agrees with me on this fact now and is willing to try to do something that gets that done, and I support that. However, I don't see how this particular levy, even though it does work on our capital improvements, I don't see how it will support closing that deficit that we currently have. or we will project to have at the end of 2016. Especially if we're gonna have to keep our split at like 99-1 in order to keep it, is that what I would assume Ms. Brown projected?
Beginning next year goes 98.2.
So she projected on 98.2, so the only way we close the gap in the year 2016 is if we go to a 99.1, which means another year of essentially little capital improvements. And then we close that gap. And then the year 2017, I think the gap is going to be somewhere around $400,000. So even the closing the split's not going to get it done. And I don't see numbers of how this plan will get it done. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. I hope I'm not just filling it all up with a bunch of words, but this is just my thought process.
Next question. Ken, do you have you talk about one of the new issues with the citywide staffing review.
Correct.
On point number 2, it talks about consolidating or sharing services among departments. I mean, do you have specifics there? And number 3 says outsourcing functions. That's all from the performance evaluation, right? Performance
Most
review.
of that.
Those suggestions came from
Yeah.
the straight after the review. Did they, and I don't remember this, did they actually look at different functions within the city or things that they thought would be outsourced or combined? Did they make specific
No,
recommendations?
well, they were specific with the Parks and Rec and the Police Department, and then the fire. Those were the performance audits. The performance audits weren't a citywide.
Right, that's right. But do you have some thoughts about, I don't need you to be specific here, but have you discussed with the mayor thoughts about possible outsourcing or consolidation of services?
There may be opportunity where if we improve our technology, we won't have to replace people who are retired.
Through attrition,
And I know you're working on with the police department on their staffing levels too, but we really need to look at that on a citywide basis.
Yeah. Like I said earlier, a lot of this, when we were talking about maintaining and reducing healthcare costs, and, performance audit for the police about overtime and minimum manning, those are all things that have to be done through negotiation of the collective bargaining agreements, and that, I wish I had a better feel for where that was going to go. So we had a lot
Well, for
of
the purpose of the numbers and the recovery plan, those numbers are remaining static until something really happens.
Do we have any projected savings through reduction? And maybe that's how we're going to close that gap?
Pardon me?
Do we have any projected savings through reduction of any kind? Like, I noticed in here we're talking about healthcare insurance premiums, we talked about the staffing levels, things of that nature. I can only assume that given the revenue ideas aren't going to close the deficit, that we're going to close the deficit through some sort of cut or reductions. Do we have any projections on those to show that how that's going to affect the bottom line of the city?
We're going to be working with 5 different contracts this year, so I think my hope is that we maintain the cost sharing that we have.
So I guess like the healthcare insurance, premium insurance participation, estimated $470,000 paid by employees during 2014. That $470,000, is that a $470,000 savings to the city?
As compared to 2012.
2012?
Well, that's, the 470 is what the employees paid into the plan.
What they paid in 2012?
In 2014. In 2012, when some of us got here, that was 0.
That was 0. So we have that savings, but now my projections moving forward would show no savings there, because this is already been implemented, correct?
Those numbers are static for the plan going forward.
So I guess my point being, the numbers I got from Ms. Brown, they're not going to be adjusted because that's already been done.
Correct.
Ken, speaking of healthcare costs, of the shared costs, the amount the city pays per employee is the same regardless if it's a family or an individual, is that correct?
The amount the city pays? No. The amount,
We do vary it?
the amount the employees pay is the same
Okay.
at this time. And that's $172 a month per employee. That's in the plan. Plus, they pay 50% of the dental premium, 50% of their vision.
Is it around $250 a month or something, maybe, what they pay in? I heard the figure, it's not important. you know, just-
$225 if they have the PPO.
Is dental an optional program?
Not if you're a new employee, you're automatically enrolled in that. The employees that were here when that new plan was in last year, they could opt in or out.
You said the new employees. So the new employees have to pay 50% of their dental.
Right, they're paying $28, the city pays $28. There's a lot of numbers.
Yeah.
Mr.
Is that how you come to the 172? Is that the total?
That's just for the
Everything?
health insurance.
That's just the health insurance.
Right.
Mr. Court, can I assume the same thing then for the abandoned property registration fees, the $25,000? Can I assume that the same thing happens there as what we just discussed in healthcare? That is something that's already taken effect in 2014, the name projections I've now received would already include that?
That was not in our previous forecast. No, after the end of last year, that's going in the new forecast.
In the new force, so the numbers I have from Ms. Brown may not include $25,000 in additional,
Right.
but it says non-general fund,
Most of that is.
because it's going into that quasi, we hold on the money.
Yeah,
for a while.
there's an escrow set up, but then there's, part of that goes in general fund under the building department.
So the $25,000 is not going to really improve my deficit, it's just,
It's only there if we need it, then it doesn't come out of the general fund.
so
If we end up with an abandoned building that we have to tear down, there's money.
bottom line, it doesn't really help. It's a nice thing, I think it's an amazing thing that we did, it helps keep our city looking good, it helps keep people accountable for their abandoned properties, but it doesn't help the bottom line in the general fund when I'm trying to keep the deficit from recurring. Explore and evaluate other available collection services, that's probably what the OSS was.
Correct.
Do we have an estimate as to what revenues would be gained from that?
No, I can get that.
I'm just trying to find where we're getting the money from.
Yeah, based on the CBSC contract.
Yeah, if we could figure that out, maybe that'll help me understand where the deficit will be reduced by. Now, I can only assume, I'm sorry, just keep going with the same thing. I can only assume that with the adoption and implementation of the vehicle replacement plan, I will say that if we do fund that through whatever revenue stream, I would speculate that we would see a savings there because the cost of maintenance for the current aged fleet would be reduced, and that's been one of my main points about how, we bought we were going to lease 2 new SUVs, we ended up purchasing, but, vehicles were costing us $8,000, $9,000 a year anyways, and the lease one would have been about the same, why not give them a new instead of the old for the same price? So I would be willing to bet if we forecasted that, we're going to see some savings that would help the bottom line in the general fund.
When we talk about selling or leasing non-essential city assets to generate cash, what type of assets are we looking at? I mean, if we're leasing, we must be talking about buildings that the city has.
If it's in the plan, then we can go forward and do those things as the opportunities come along. We have scrapped out some old vehicles that are collecting rust.
Speaking of that, not vehicles, but if you go to the main fire station, have you been up to their storage room on the second floor?
No.
they have what I would assume are thousands of dollars worth of scrap up there in form of old nozzles, like copper and brass fire extinguishers that they don't use. But all those old nozzles are chrome-plated brass. The chief said to me probably 3 or 4 months ago, I'd love to be able to get rid of these things. What's it take to do that? And I don't know if anybody's ever shown you that, but I mean, these things are heavy and they're solid brass. They gotta have some salvage value to them. Plus, they could use the space there for other things. There's a ton of stuff.
Yeah, we can advertise for bids on a per pound basis or per ton basis, that sort of.
I mean, why wouldn't we just take it ourselves to the scrapyard and scrap it?
Depending on what we estimate the value of it, we have to take it out.
Yeah. I think the only way to do that probably is to take it somewhere and weigh it. They can tell you exactly what it is that day. I don't know how somebody else would do it.
I was looking here, this is part tighten policies on fuel usage and idling time under undetermined savings at this time. Second quarter of 2015. Well, we were supposed to do that July 1st of 2014, according to the last plan that we had.
It's
Do it.
There's no idling policies that have been refreshed on that or implemented.
There what?
There's no idling or policies as such that have been either refreshed or implemented since that time.
Well, that was supposed to have been done last July. I mean, we're putting a whole lot of stuff on the sheet, a whole lot of it doesn't really mean it doesn't. There's about 3 things on there that really truly mean anything.
I guess it does make sense that that's the pop.
Oh,
You know, others are good work.
They're gonna accept it based on 2 or 3 things. All that other stuff's just fluff. Fluff. We're exactly the same thing. Have we done enough of this now? We want to move on to the budget, or what do you want to do?
What can we do with the budget if we don't have this?
I don't know. Well, we'll let the budget finance person tell us. That's not my. I was just the chairman of this, since we took this as the committee of the whole. Somebody else is going to be taking it over Tuesday if you're still talking.
What do you leave and when you come back?
I'm going to be gone about 2 weeks from Tuesday. Just about. Maybe it'll be anywhere from 10 to 14 days.
Well, don't think about what's going on back there. Enjoy yourself.
I'll call every day.
Is that a motion?
I call anyhow just for fun.
Here's,
When it's about 85 degrees.
You got an extra space for fuel with?
I won't call Diane. I used to always call Mary Beth when I had a beer in my hand and it was about 85 degrees.
Don't call me.
I will. Believe me, I will. You see it on the answer, the identity thing, don't answer.
Unless you're doing some ticket to come down and join.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, he knows
I
I'm
don't
not
see
eligible for
anything-
vacation yet.
Is there anywhere to go with this part here anymore?
I don't think so.
That's it.
I think we need those books.
I'm just, I have a really hard time supporting this. Believe me, but like I said, I'm not gonna be here. I still think we should push a month's extension. Because, what if this thing would have been given to us one day before? I mean, you tell me we have to make a decision after that. I'm sorry. I'm not.
well, I think what we need to do then is we close this and transition the close the financial restoration plan discussion and transition in the budget. We're not gonna meet again, I'm assuming, until Monday.
Oh, I don't know. You want to meet on this again before Monday?
I don't have a date, I don't have a date open.
We'll do 6 o'clock Monday. Is that okay with everybody?
I would say though that if any of us have any ideas, get ready to present them, because if we're not gonna accept this plan, maybe we should at least be prepared to discuss some options that we would like to send back.
My option to send back would be to go back to the income tax again as it was, only put the street lighting in there to be removed also with the tax code and run it again. And let the administration get on board. They were talking about, they thought the last one was a loser, wasn't gonna go anywhere. Well, for the reasons we've said here, this is just for me, when I look at this stuff with the schools, first of all, I ask, why are we waiting till February of next year if everything is really so important about all this? If we can't even have a month more to talk about it, why are we waiting till February of next year to do this? That's one. The other, the property tax thing, I don't like at all, because we continue to pile this stuff on our people, and whether you like it or not, the street lighting fee is a tax. It is a tax. So that'd be $75 you'd be adding to a $100,000
The
home.
income tax was 1.4 million, what would it generate?
1.6.
You know, I kind of agree with Paul on that. I think the income tax is more fair, it hits more citizens. The street lighting is already kind of a property tax in a way. Maybe we need to think about tying it to the tax credit reduction and remove the tax credit reduction and bring it back to 1%. You know, people are gonna be paying that reduction now, and they're gonna be more cognizant of the fact that it's costing a lot of money. If we get rid of that reduction and bring it back to 1%, that's 35% of the people that work out outside of the city that would probably support that income tax increase. They're already paying the street lighting fee, so it's not like they're not getting hit.
Well, we'd have to adjust the
It would
percentage
be a
we're
little less
looking
than
at,
1.4,
right?
but we're only making what on the tax credit reduction?
And just so you know, I did quick numbers right here at 1.6 million. You can reduce that 1.6 million by $727,000, which is the property tax. That way you keep the vehicle replacement and resurface the program in place. You can reduce it again by $500,000, which is the revenue generated by the
Tax
credit,
reduction.
and you could reduce it by the $300,000, which is the street lighting, and you still have a little bit left. Those are quick numbers, though. I mean,
What do you think, putting a tax increase at what percentage?
whatever the
2%
1.6
is what our
million
last
is.
Two, oh,
Yeah.
I think that 1.3, 1.6 million before was based on restoring the tax credit on the full 1.8%, but not having it on the extra.
Right.
So it'll be a little
Right,
less.
it would have
but-
been frozen at the
You
1.8.
know,
There would have been no credit on the new 210s.
Right, and for
Yeah, but that's
folks
not
who
what
work
Megan's saying.
in other municipalities, it would reduce the
Just an idea.
income tax.
Yeah.
I would say give the
0.5%.
tax, you know, give the 100%
So that's an
tax
option.
back.
That's an option. You still do everything we're talking about here, you just do it in a different way.
I mean, we gained support for the income tax between the last two times. I know it's been on the ballot twice, but we did gain some support.
We're gained about, what, 6%?
More than that, I thought.
Great, yes.
I was just going to make a suggestion to think about it. If we decide to do that, we should get somebody professional like Todd Locke or somebody like that to run the campaign instead of council trying to do it. I think we would reach more people. It would have been done more professionally. There were a lot of people that did not understand, again, what that was all about. So just a thought. I don't know how much that would cost. It might be worth it.
And, you know, just to bring it up, I will say, you know, the agreement originally was reduce that income tax credit with the promise of the mayor's support on the income tax. And she didn't support us on it last time, so why are we keeping that income tax reduction in place? That's my thought.
You're right.
Why keep it in place at this point?
To be honest, I don't know if I could get behind any tax increase. I'm just, you know, I just feel that, you know, I'm not a big tax guy regardless. And I went ahead and put my neck out and did it twice. And the citizens spoke twice, so I don't know. It's a hard pill for me to swallow to say I'm gonna get behind any tax initiative a third time. I did it the first two times to really know that the city needs something. But I value the opinion of our citizens to the point where I don't know. I have to do a lot of thinking to see how I'm going to
We didn't get the message out. That was the biggest problem. And I had somebody tell me this, and I hadn't thought about it before, but some citizens have. The fact that all city employees have to pay city income tax. But very few of them have to pay property tax because they don't live in the city. And that is a pill that's hard to swallow for some citizens. I had never even thought about it.
That's a question I had. Good for Ken. I had this all day. How many people live outside the city of Massillon that pay city, work in Massillon that pay city income tax? I mean, we know there was something close to 35% of the people that live in the city work other places and don't pay city income tax. We give them a credit. I think it was 35%. It was what we talked, somewhere between 30 and 35. What percent of the people paying city income tax that work in Massillon live outside of the city?
I'll have to find a way to get it.
I'm sure we can get it, but I don't
Yeah.
expect you to have it in your pocket there.
You know, I started on a project like that not so long ago called Canton and said, in your tax software, tell me how many people reside in Canton who work in Massillon. Because our system can do that with Massillon residents. They can't do that with the software.
Yeah,
And that's probably where a lot of our folks go.
So we can figure out who lives in Massillon and works in Massillon?
That lives outside.
And you can figure out who works in Massillon but lives out.
We can figure out how many schedules are filed by Massillon residents who work outside the city limits.
Can you find out how many schedules by Massillon residents work inside Massillon?
I mean, people living outside the work.
No,
Yeah.
my thought is that they live here and work here, and we have that number, and we have the other number, then the remainder work out.
Yeah, I know we have a total schedules from Massillon employers. I'll have to do some.
I mean, you gave me the biggest employers and all that stuff,
Yeah.
top 25 and all that, but this is, we're back to where I don't know, we're putting it all on the homeowner in Massillon. Even like the condominium owners, they're mad at us because we put a $25 streetlight fee on them when they already have streetlights. Those people are mad at us. And we have the people that are working outside the city that are mad at us because we reduced the tax credit. Well, that's still back to, also the number I'd like to know two numbers. How many people live outside of Massillon or paying city income tax? We're here to pay city income tax. How many of our total employees that we're paying out of the general fund work in all branches of government in the city? Administration, council, courts, everything that we're paying out of the general fund. How many of those people live in Massillon? How many live outside of Massillon? Percentages. I really would like to have those. I don't know, but is it possible by Monday or sooner? I mean, we're putting us in the box. We're asking numbers, and I know you're thinking, man, that's short time, but I mean, that's the position we're in too. We're not being given much time to talk about this. It still bothers me that our residents, whether they're retired or not retired, you're going to have retirees. A lot of them in the older neighborhoods of the town are going to be complaining about paying more property tax. And you're also going to have a lot of people that are a little more affluent in Massillon that have very high property values that are going to be hit pretty hard on this thing too. That's where a lot of the money's going to come from. So,
Where will that put us in the county based on this? Where will that raise Massillon? If we raise the property tax 1.5 mil, where will that put us compared to the rest of the areas in the county?
I would have to probably run that by the county and look at the effective millage.
Because I remember last time we were debating this, it was quite high.
They had it
Quite
before,
high
I
out
was
there.
trying to make a phone call in the morning and have it sent out. We are comparable with many of the townships that surround us currently. So as we increase, and I say comparable because Mr. Code will be quick to let us know the effective rate can kind of screw things up a little bit. But I feel that we're starting to push that out a little bit. The city, our schools have had to, in order to, and they've done that in order to support themselves for whatever reasons. That's not our business to get into right now. But that's what's affecting it. We want to transition to the budget then?
that's all I wanted to ask, those two questions I had.
As we get that information, we'll send that out.
Okay. And if I get it, I'll get it to Diane. Right.